This is dHunter and my lovely wife Patricia bringing you yet another Star Trek movie review. Today we're going to be reviewing Star Trek Into Darkness. This is the 12th Star Trek movie and the second Star Trek movie in the rebooted Kelvin timeline. This movie came out in 2013 and takes place in 2259. Now, 2259 is about 7 years before the original series took place. The timelines don't really match up, but it's a whole other timeline, a different universe, so whatever. This movie is a little bit darker, hence the name Into Darkness, than a typical Star Trek movie, which is usually lighthearted and kind of fun, exploration. And this features Khan Noonien Singh, played by Benedict Cumberbatch. He was hot shit at the time. He's still popular, Doctor Strange in the Marvel Universe. They're kind of remaking Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. If you guys ever seen the Jay and Silent Bob reboot film, they try to explain what a difference between a reboot and a sequel and a remake is. And I don't agree with everything they said there, but this movie here is a remake to a point of Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. It's part of the rebooted Star Trek universe. And honestly, it's still a sequel of sorts because events in the main canon led to the reboot here. So it's sort of all the above shoved into one. And I like it. I think I remember liking it maybe a little bit more than I liked it this time. I'm not saying I didn't like it this time, but there's some stuff that displeased me that I guess I kind of forgot about or didn't think was as bad as it was in this movie. I'm not saying the movie's bad, but it has some dumb stuff in it, as almost all movies do nowadays. I do remember going to see this movie in theaters with you back in 2013. That was 11 years ago, my word. And there were these two teenage girls in the movie theater talking and laughing and giggling, and they're clearly not Star Trek fans. I have no idea why they would have gone to see this movie, but there was, not a full-packed theater. But honestly, in a Star Trek movie, I want to hear the details. I want to know the plot. I want to know all the little extra stuff going on, and they were kind of ruining the enjoyment. And people kept complaining. People from the theater that worked there kept coming in. Of course, they wouldn't be talking at that point. It took 4 different times for people, for the movie staff to come in before they finally kicked them the fuck out. That was so annoying. It just seems like a weird thing for teenage girls to be giggling and going in. It's like, well, go see a comedy or a cartoon movie. Why would you pick Star Trek of all things?
We're not reviewing the giggling girls, okay? Let's get back.
Okay, Star Trek Into Darkness. This is the second film, the Chris Pine, the Enterprise, all that sort of stuff. So, the film opens up with kind of a dumb scene. They're on some planet, and apparently the Enterprise was supposed to survey this planet, but of course not let this primitive society see them, as the Federation Starfleet have something called the Prime Directive. The Prime Directive insists they do not interfere with the evolution of other species. So if they're a pre-warp civilization, which these guys sure were, they were, almost caveman type technology, they should not let them see them and possibly influence their culture. There was a volcano that was about to erupt and I guess wipe them all out. And it's almost like they took it upon themselves to
try and prevent that from happening.
Yeah, so they drop an ice bomb into the volcano. But honestly, that alone is violating the Prime Directive because the natural evolution of the species would be to be wiped out. And they would have no right to interfere with the course of evolution. So I think Kirk took it upon himself to just sort of do this. And Spock was totally on board, which is very anti-Spock character because he's very by the rules. Now, on the other hand, you could say, well, maybe they were ordered to stop this volcano from erupting. But once again, that sort of violates the Prime Directive. I don't really see Starfleet doing that sort of stuff, but they were very particular about trying not to get seen by the culture and stop this volcano without them even knowing they were doing this.
Yeah.
So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get through. It just, to me, it doesn't really make sense either way. But it starts off, you got Kirk and McCoy, I think, and they're sort of just running through the woods. They're being chased by all these natives. They're experienced with them, etc., etc. There's this big, giant monster thing comes out. And what's the first thing Kirk does? Pulls out his phaser and stuns it. Then McCoy takes his mask off. You just stunned our ride, Jim. And he's like, which, it's kind of humorous, slightly. And you have Uhura with, I think, Sulu on a shuttle, and they're dropping Spock off on some little island in the middle of the volcano.
Yes.
And he's going to drop this ice bomb or leave it there, and then they're going to take him out, detonate the ice bomb, stop the volcano, and go about their merry way.
Yeah.
Of course, things are not that simple. As Kirk is running away from the natives, they jump off a cliff, go underwater to the scene where the USS Enterprise is completely submerged in water. Something we've never seen before, and honestly is dumb.
Yes.
I get they're trying to be hidden, and they're really just trying to have this cool scene where the Enterprise is submerged in water. But why wouldn't they just stay in orbit where the people won't see them?
Ship.
And those people won't know. I mean, they don't have to be in the atmosphere. They could just literally beam down. There must have been some reason they couldn't beam because they're using shuttles. The Enterprise is underwater.
Yeah.
I don't remember them saying the transporters aren't working, but, plot convenience, that has to be a thing. So they go in the water, go to the Enterprise, and they're talking about Spock and Uhura and them trying to do that stuff. The shuttle's going down there, dropping Spock off, and of course it gets damaged, so they can't take Spock back. The shuttle has to leave, and then Spock is stranded there on this volcano, in this island, surrounded by lava, with this ice bomb, and he tells them, you cannot save me, you cannot let the species see us, we have to do this without them seeing us, which, the fact that Spock's even doing this makes me feel like Starfleet either ordered them to do this, or, like, they have no problem, like, it's not a violation of the directive because they're not seeing them.
Later on, remember, he meets with...
Well, most certainly, but it doesn't make sense that Spock would be going along with this at all.
Yes, no. Not at all.
Whatever. Long story short, Kirk, of course, orders the Enterprise to come out of the water, and the species, the natives, see them, and they're all like, oh, we worship you, god of, whatever. They go, they beam Spock out of there, the bomb detonates, saves the planet, saves the volcano, and they leave.
But then it starts snowing, and they do not look like they are prepared for a cold snap.
They have white skin, they have leathery skin, maybe they like it cold, maybe they're like the Breens, who knows? Ice planet.
They're on a tropical island.
You don't know the ecosystem and atmosphere of this planet, blah, 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 blah. None of that really matters. But as the Enterprise is leaving, you see this culture drawing the Enterprise in, like, the sand, and they're all, like, worshipping it. So they've clearly influenced this culture, which is probably going to worship this thing in the shape of the Enterprise and sort of influence their evolution. After they get out of there, Spock's like, why did you do this? You should have left me there, blah, 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 blah. And Kirk's like, I saved your life. And of course, Kirk and Spock, they have that relationship. Kirk's willing to break the rules to save people. That's always been a thing. The whole Prime Directive thing bothers me because I really feel like they must have expected to be ordered to save the planet. And the Prime Directive's been sort of inconsistent, at least a little bit over the years. They should not interfere with the culture, but they're a humanitarian, they want to save people and all that sort of stuff.
But then at the beginning, Kirk is running with, not a tablet, but a scroll.
Yeah, I didn't really understand that.
Why did he take it?
Yeah, did he steal that from them? Because as they're chasing him, he puts this scroll up, and they all stop, and they're like worshiping the scroll. It's like, why would he have taken that?
Yes, exactly.
I feel like there had to be some stuff cut out of that, because it didn't really make any sense.
No,
Later, we see the natives, and they're worshiping the scroll when the ship comes up, and they all sort of go to the ship and watch it. Yeah. And the whole scene, honestly, it's dumb. Like, it doesn't do much for me, and it contradicts almost itself in what it's, they're complaining about the Prime Directive, but their actions are violating the Prime Directive, and their actions to save Spock violate the Prime Directive more. It just really doesn't make much sense. The further you drill into it, the more confusing it is. So then we cut to a scene on Earth, and there's some family of humans that have a sick daughter. She's in the hospital, and it doesn't really explain what's going on there either. I only get it because I've seen the movie a few times and I've read the extra stuff. It just shows there's a sick daughter. You have little monitors, and you don't really it doesn't explain to you that she's sick and there's no cure for her, which is what's happening. Yeah, but it's sure not told to you, and you don't even know this guy's a Starfleet officer. For all you know, it's just a random guy. Yeah, and then Cumberbatch meets the father and tells him I can save her, and doesn't explain what his cost is, what his price is.
Well, not that we know of, but...
Well, yes, but that's behind the scenes. Yeah. And I get that you're trying to keep it kind of mysterious. Yeah. Allegedly, he trades some of his blood, which is genetically engineered and has the ability to rejuvenate cells or whatever, which was never stated in the original Khan episode or movie. But whatever, I can sort of accept that his blood is, strong and engineered and can heal you.
A little bit of healing, extra healing ability, but nothing like what they portray.
Curing a sick person's one thing. What they do later is a whole nother thing, and we will clearly get to that shortly. So, in exchange for some of his blood to cure his daughter, he basically asks him to destroy a Federation facility, which is something that never happens on Earth. Earth is a very peaceful place. You don't have bombings or terrorist activity. It's unheard of at this point. So he goes to the Starfleet archives, and it was the Kelvin Memorial Archives, which is pretty cool. They're walking through what looks like kind of like a city from nowadays. Not even modern to today's standards.
City Hall.
But it's just like a regular pavement and different buildings, and it's almost like they kept it that way to sort of like preserve, you know what I mean? No. It doesn't look like a Star Trek-y type thing. It looks like something you would see today if you walk downtown. Yeah. He goes into the archives, and right before he blows it up, he sends a message to Admiral Marcus. And actually, back it up just a hair, you do see him take Khan's blood and put it into his daughter's IV, and then her life signs sort of stabilized. Yeah. But he has to sacrifice his life to save his daughter, and a lot of parents would do that, of course. Yeah. But he goes there and he has this ring on, takes his ring out, drops it in a cup of water, and it sort of dissolves. It becomes a bomb, and then the whole facility blows up. And I believe they said 42 men and women were killed, which seems kind of a small number because that explosion was huge. But whatever.
42 in the building.
Yeah, I mean, he said leaving 42 men and women dead.
In the building.
Yeah, so I'm assuming those are the casualties.
Just in the building.
I'm assuming those are all the casualties. He would have said like 100 people dead or whatever. So then you have Kirk and Spock meeting with Captain Pike, or Admiral Pike, I don't even know what he is at this point. He has given up his ship at the end of the first film and let Kirk become the captain. And Kirk is very cocky, just like he was in the old show. He takes it in there and he's like, so what about this planet? What about this volcano? He's like, the volcano said it was volatile. And he's like, well, everything's fine on that planet, don't worry about it. And he's like, well, your report said the volcano's volatile. And he's like, oh, volatile's relevant. He's like, well, maybe it's because Spock detonated an ice bomb and saved the entire planet and violated the Prime Directive. And Kirk's just like, that's not what my report said. And he mentions violating the Prime Directive because he let them see them. No one complains about violating the Prime Directive because of the ice bomb, which I really feel like that's what they think Starfleet would have had them do. Like, though the fact that Spock does it, Spock would not have violated and done his own sort of rogue thing.
But then again, I feel like he watched his homeworld get destroyed, so he's trying to save other.
It's possible. It just doesn't really fully add up, honestly. Like, the more I think about it, the more confusing and contradicting it seems to be. But whatever, it's a very small scene in the film, and it sort of sets up Kirk getting in trouble with Starfleet. So Pike, is like talking to Spock. He's like, well, Spock filed a report, and Kirk's like, you filed a report? And he's like, I inadvertently assumed that you'd be honest in your captain's log. And he's asked Spock, like, do you have an attitude? And Spock's like, I'm exerting multiple attitudes. Which would you refer to? And he's like, get out.
Yeah.
And Spock's not trying to be offensive. He's just a Vulcan. He is what he is. So he leaves, and he's telling Kirk, you don't listen, you don't follow the rules. Kirk keeps trying to say something. He's like, no, I will not listen to you. Will not listen to you. This is what you do. You're stubborn. He's like, how many people have I lost? I've lost zero people since I took over the ship. And he's like, yeah, you're justifying blind luck to justify your actions, and you're out of control, and blah, blah, blah. And Kirk always sort of ignored the rules in the old show. He did things his way, and he was pretty successful most of the time.
Yeah.
So it cuts to, I believe, a bar scene. Well, he mentions Admiral Marcus pulled a private tribunal or something to decide your fate, and I wasn't invited, so I won't know. Yeah. Then it goes to a bar. Kirk's getting wasted. He drinks some whiskey or whatever, and he's just about to talk to some alien girl there, and then Pike sits right down next to him, and he's like, ugh. And Pike says, well, they took her away from you. The Enterprise, not yours anymore. And Kirk literally looks like he's about to cry. Yep. But that's his passion, like the Enterprise. He loves it. Even though they kind of forced in this universe, it's just not quite the same as the old ones. But whatever, it is what it is. That's James D. Kirk, the Enterprise. That is the epitome of Star Trek, the original series. Yes. At this point, Pike tells him, you lost the ship. He said, they're giving it back to me. I'm in charge of the Enterprise. And he's like, well, congratulations to you. Just watch your first officer. And he's like, Spock's not my first officer. They reassigned him. He's like, you're my first officer. He's like, I met with Admiral Marcus. I made a big case for you. And Kirk, once again, almost was about to cry. Like, he's so happy that he's getting put back onto the Enterprise. Because earlier they told him he's going back to the Academy.
Yeah.
And you can see Kirk really appreciates it, and he's looking forward to being back on the Enterprise, serving with Pike. Yes. Yeah, he's probably a little bitter he's not the captain, but he's happy to still be in the game instead of getting bumped back to cadet or having to do retraining, whatever he had to do. And while they're talking, Pike's communicator goes off, and he looks and he's like, oh, it's emergency meeting of all the senior staff. That's us. He's like, all right, get dressed, suit up, let's go. It's like Kirk's shit-face wasted at this point. But honestly, I imagine in the Star Trek universe they can just take a little injection, sober up, bam, good to go.
Yeah.
Nothing's ever really been shown quite like that, but I kind of assume they have the ability to do things like that.
Yeah.
So it cuts to the scene in Starfleet headquarters, and they meet Admiral Marcus, played by Peter Weller, which is RoboCop, or Batman, deciding on what you like. And then in this movie, as my son pointed out, there are two Batmans. We have Captain Pike, which is Batman in Under the Red Hood and the entire Young Justice show, and then we have Peter Weller, which is Batman in the Dark Knight Returns cartoon, and they're both in the same room together. Pretty cool. So all the senior officers, the captains and first officers of all the ships in the region, meet up when Starfleet has, I guess, a terrorist event, which is never happens, but this is protocol. They're all going to meet up in this room at Starfleet headquarters. You even see I don't remember the guy's name, but the captain of the Bradbury. He's like, Spock, you're with me. And he's like, all right, Captain. So they all meet up. They're talking about John Harrison. And John Harrison is sort of the code name for the Khan character. At this point, if you've seen the movie and don't really know what's going on, you don't know Khan's going to be in the film. And you're just like, okay, who's this John Harrison guy that wants to destroy stuff? He's a terrorist. Kirk's sort of looking at the logs, and the technology is obviously much better than the original series, but it's stuff that makes perfect sense to have like 200 years from now. He's making stuff bigger, and he's watching him, and he has a bag. And he's like, what's in the bag? And Pike's like, not now, leave it alone. And he's like, well, why would he attack the archives? And then Pike's like, or not Pike, Marcus is like, is everything okay over there, Pike? And he's like, yeah, my first officer is getting reacclimated to his new role. And he's like, what do you got to say, son? You got something to say? Say it. Tomorrow's too late. And he's like, oh, nothing, don't worry about it. He's like, don't be shy, what is it? And I really like his voice. It's so good.
Yeah.
And he mentions, well, why would he attack the archives? Archives are public record. There's nothing there that's going to hurt Starfleet. If he's trying to hurt Starfleet, this could be just the beginning. Although I personally would have been like, what is he doing in the archives? What else is there? It's clearly not just the archives. Like, he's not doing anything. Then he mentions he might be doing an all-out war against Starfleet. I love Admiral Marcus says, this is a manhunt, pure and simple. Your job is to run this bastard down. Do not let him exit Federation space. And it's like not the typical Starfleet type of reaction. You're like, oh, let's take him to custody no matter what, blah, blah, blah. Of course, at this point, Kirk's like, this could be the beginning. It could be an all-out war against Starfleet. And then he's like, mandate, is that we meet all the senior officers, meet in this room here. Then you see a red light, and a shuttle comes outside and just starts blasting in there, obliterating the entire senior command of the region. Kirk's running around. They're all sort of hiding. Half of them probably died in the initial volley.
Yeah. Pike
gets injured pretty badly. Kirk runs to the other room. They ask for air support to come in. They just die like in 1 second. These two guys come with guns.
A red shirt.
Kirk goes out there trying to shoot him. It's not really doing anything. You see Pike pretty much get killed. Spock pulls him out of the way. Kirk throws... So he sees the engine in the ship, and it's a little much.
Yeah.
He opens the wall, there's like a hose in there for fire, or whatever, it's fine. He wraps it around the gun and throws it into the engine, and the whole wall compartment flies out there, and it finally takes down the ship, and as the ship's going down, you can see John Harrison beaming off. Then they go back in there, Spock has this dying Pike, and he decides to mind meld with him, because Spock, as a Vulcan, does not feel emotion, and I think he's wondering what it would feel like if he's about to die, because he almost died earlier in the film, and apparently had no emotions about it, because they're all repressed for him. Then Kirk comes out there, and he's crying, sees Pike, and it's upsetting, and that pretty much cuts out that scene. And then we cut to a scene where apparently they've gone through the wreckage of Khan's little shuttle thing, and they find a warp transporter. I don't remember the exact terminology, and it's, I think, the technology that Scotty invented in the previous one, even though Spock told him they invented it later, even though it's technology we've never seen in Prime Timeline. Whatever, it's just a plot convenience. And they find out that John Harrison had beamed all the way to Kronos. And I really don't like how this movie spells Kronos. When they go to Kronos, it shows Kronos, Kronos. Whereas in Star Trek lore, it's always been QU''ONS or something like that.
Yeah.
Just because the Kelvin got destroyed 20 years ago would not alter the spelling of Kronos. So I think that's stupid.
Yes.
And it makes it so much more basic. But it's a small nitpicky thing, but why change that? There's no reason.
Yes.
So they find out that he beamed all the way to Kronos, which is like super, super far away, and it makes no sense that they could beam that far.
Yeah.
It's technology they never should have had in the first film. It didn't make any sense in the Star Trek universe, and then instead of just ignoring it, they literally bring it back. There are so many ways he could have just gone to Kronos. That's, in my opinion, dumb plot convenience again. So they meet Admiral Marcus, who's in a meeting with a bunch of other Starfleet people, and they really just interrupt him, and he's like, we know where John Harrison is. I want to be reinstated as captain and go after him. He's on Kronos. And he's like, all right, guys, give me a minute. He talks to them. They explain why they know this, why he's there. And he's like, Starfleet can't do it because it might be a war with the Klingons, but I can go. And it's like, well, sure, but you're going as a Starfleet captain in a Starfleet ship, so how are you not representing Starfleet? Maybe if they gave you like a different ship, that would make sense. It's not really what happened. Long story short, Admiral Marcus, he really wants Khan gone for a lot of reasons. John Harrison, you find out, worked for him, and he sort of set all this stuff up. So he allows him to go. He wants these experimental photon torpedoes put onto the ship, 72 of them, and they're long-range torpedoes. So he wants them to go to the edge of the neutral zone, fire these 72 torpedoes at Kronos, and then get back to Federation space. I'm pretty sure they're going to figure out that the Federation is bombing their home world, and that is going to lead to a war. But at the same time, I think Marcus wants a war. He hates the Klingons.
Yeah.
He thinks Starfleet's too soft, and the Klingons will take them over if they don't do something. And I mean, he's really trying to instigate a war between the Federation and the Klingons because he feels that's the only way to have peace, by having a big bloody war. Whatever, it is what it is. So Kirk says, I want to be reinstated as captain, and I'd like to reinstate Spock's first officer, and he's like, do it. Meanwhile, in the Enterprise, they're getting ready to take off. 72 torpedoes are put on. They refuse to tell Scotty what is in them, and he's like, well, I need the schematics or whatever in order to take off. I will not sign off on these. And Kirk's like, you have to sign off on these. And he's like, I will not. He's like, Kirk's like, you have to. This is an order. And Scotty ends up resigning.
Yep.
Or I don't know if he resigns his whole commission or just quits I guess he does.
Said,
So he leaves with his little weird alien little friend guy.
Baby.
Yeah, it's dumb, but slightly humorous, but it's dumb.
Yeah.
Of course, he makes him walk with him,
Yes.
and they quit. And then he says to Chekhov, you know anything about engineering? He's like, yes. He's like, all right, you're promoted chief engineer. Put a red shirt on. And just the fact that he says that, because most of you probably know, in the original show, the red shirts were the security officers, usually with no name. They would always die. They'd beam down to the planet, always be Kirk, Spock, McCoy, and like one or two red shirts.
Yep.
And you know, if you didn't know their names, they're pretty much guaranteed to die. And the stereotype for Star Trek is the red shirts die. Of course, security in the later shows is wearing yellow, but that's not even relevant. They're still red here, and he's like, Chekhov, put a red shirt on. And the look on Chekhov's face, he's just like, oh, and he's like, do it.
Yes.
So he becomes chief engineer, and he's kind of in over his head. I mean, he ain't no Scotty. So they set off to go to Kronos. And of course, as they're getting closer and closer to Kronos, bam, the ship just comes out of warp. And I thought they were attacked at first because it was just...
Yeah.
And apparently they were sabotaged, presumably by Marcus or one of his people, and it took them out of warp. The whole plan was, they're out of warp, they bomb the planet, and then they're stuck there. The Klingons find them.
They're stuck, like, what?
Close.
20 minutes into...
Something, but I think
away from Kronos.
They have the ability to hit it with the long-range torpedoes, I believe, at this point.
Yeah.
And the whole plan is, they get stuck there, they bomb the planet, then the Klingons find the ship there, and they know the Federation did this, thus starting a war with the Klingons and the Federation. Which is not a very patriotic thing, considering Admiral Marcus is such a patriot, Starfleet, that sort of stuff. It doesn't really make sense. He's willing to sacrifice arguably millions and millions of lives to sort of get the Klingons out of the way and beat them.
Yeah.
And he's been developing top secret weapons to take them on, that sort of stuff. So they're stuck there, and they know where John Harrison is. He's in this area where it's uninhabited, so they can bomb it without killing much Klingons. I mean, whatever. Yeah. There's plenty of areas in the Earth that's uninhabited, you know. But Kirk decides he wants to take John Harrison into custody. A little sort of change of heart. Mm-hmm. You know, he goes there with this whole revenge thing because Pike got killed. He's like, I want to kill him, kill him, kill him. And I think Spock keeps telling him this is morally wrong, this is morally wrong, so he kind of gets through to him. Yep. And they take a ship they have in their shuttle bay. They said they got from the Mudd incident, which is a reference to Harry Mudd, who was in a couple of episodes of the original show and even the animated show. And I feel like he was in one of the movies, but I guess not. Maybe he was in... Yeah, he was in, I think, Discovery at one point. Yes. Played by...
Rain.
Yeah. The guy from The Office, Dwight, right?
Yeah.
But a nice little Easter egg there. I love Easter eggs and references. Harry Mudd was sort of a fan favorite, this goofy guy. Mm-hmm. But they have a ship, so they can go in there. They all take their uniforms off, put on regular clothing, and they take this ship down to Kronos to capture John Harrison, and that way if they're caught, they don't have a Starfleet shuttle, they don't have uniforms, and it won't start a war. Mm-hmm. So they go down to the planet, of course. Some Klingon ships find them immediately, starts chasing after them, and this ridiculous space battle where they even go, their ship's kind of flat, goes sideways between two buildings. Now, why would they make two buildings with this gap this small between them? Makes no sense at all.
Think about how big the ship is. So, I mean, the gap is, like, probably really big.
It just looks like something that would never do. Like, they would just literally make the buildings connected. It's like maybe the size of, like, a room between these two giant buildings. But whatever, it doesn't matter. It's just a cool scene where they're, you know, flying through there. Of course, as soon as they get out, they're surrounded by 4 Klingon ships or whatever, and they're, you know, those Klingons are telling them, like, chalk, 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 or whatever, and they don't seem to, like, communicate with them. They just land the ship. You think the Klingons, honestly, that's out of care. They would just shoot them. Yeah. They wouldn't ask any questions, but maybe they want information as to who they are, why they're there, whatever. So they land there, and he brought Uhura on board because she could speak Klingon. She's the translator and the, you know, xeno-linguistic whatever person. So go down there, and she's like, they're all getting their faces ready. He's like, all right, guns blazing, we go out there. And she's like, no, there's 4 Klingon ships. You have no chance of beating them. She's like, you brought me here, can I speak Klingon? Let me go out there and speak Klingon. Mm-hmm. So she goes out there, this little scrawny woman, by herself, and clearly she's not the only one on the ship. The Klingons are probably like, dishonorable, send the woman to their bidding. But she goes out there, and she's talking to the Klingon. She says, we are here to help you with respect. There is a man here that's killed many of our people. And he's like, why do I care about humans killing humans? And she's like, because he has no honor. You know, that sort of stuff. And he takes his helmet off. So they have the Klingons with these helmets. Because, of course, you wonder, in the original show, the Klingons had no ridges. They look like just regular guys, black guys. And then in the Next Generation Deep Space Voyager, they have these ridges and ornate heads, which is the signature look for the Klingons. And it's like, how will this franchise handle this? Yes. So they have these helmets with sort of like fake ridges on them. Yes. And finally he takes it off. And it's a very... I mean, it's recognizable as a Klingon, but it's a little more ornate and elaborate than you've seen before. And he has like little piercings all over it. Yeah. It kind of looks kind of like the Klingons in Discovery, but it's like almost between the two. I like it. I have no problem with it. I think it looks pretty cool. And he's like choking her, and so finally Kirk and them all come out. And then bam, there's gunfire everywhere going on. You have John Harrison on top of this area. There he's got like a big minigun looking thing and other phasers, and he's killing all these Klingons everywhere. Just little do you know, this is Khan Noonien Singh, who's genetically engineered. He's super intelligent, super athletic, super strong, super perfect aim, everything. He's a perfect human, and that's the whole point of Khan from Star Trek II is. In, 1993 or 1997, they had the eugenics wars where the genetically engineered people took over and almost took over the entire world. They got defeated and then sent out to space, frozen. So this is this guy. And you see them, these genetically engineered people, in Deep Space Nine, Dr. Bashir. You see them in Enterprise with Brent Spiner played like a Khan Noonien Singh, I don't know, ancestor or something, like the guy who made some of them. But they're like superhumans. It's like Captain America in the Marvel Universe, like super strong, can barely be killed, and they can, you know, take on armies almost by themselves. He wipes out like all the Klingons. I mean, he's taking down ships with his minigun. I mean, he's killing... He probably killed 50 Klingons at least by himself. I mean, Kirk's struggling with one of them down there, so Spock. And at the very end, Harrison comes up to him with a big rifle, and he's like, "How many torpedoes do you have? You mentioned these torpedoes." And Spock just, you know, holds a gun up to him. He shoots Spock's gun out of his hand. He's perfect aim, perfect everything. And he's like, "How many torpedoes?" And Spock's like, 72. And he's like, "I surrender." Drops his gun. And then Kirk, who hates him because he specifically saw John Harrison in the shuttle kill all these Starfleet admirals and stuff, he just punches him until he's exhausted and can't do anything. And of course, John Harrison, completely not bruised or anything, just stood there, took it. And they take him up to the ship. They put him in a little prison or whatever.
The brig. Yeah.
And they want to start heading back home, but of course the warp core is still not working yet.
Yeah.
Finally, they get the warp core working. John Harrison's like, he knows everything. He's like, "Are you stranded here, perhaps? You had a warp core malfunction?" He's like, "If you don't listen to me, your entire crew will die." Of course, Kirk doesn't want to listen to anything he has to say. And they leave. They finally got warp going.
He tells them to check out those.
The certain coordinates.
The
set of coordinates. And he's like...
Yes, and to check out their torpedoes. Take a closer look at them.
Which I think he actually... maybe asked later. Well, it doesn't matter. He contacts Scotty, Kirk does, and Scotty's like, "I'm not going to help you." And he tells him to check out these coordinates. Of course, Scotty, loyal, is going to go check them out. And then they want to check out the torpedoes. So I think they took the torpedo down to the planet because they were worried. Cause they thought they were trying to trick him into opening a torpedo and blowing up their ship.
Yes.
And Kirk's like, "No, he wouldn't have orchestrated this whole thing just to blow our ship up. He could have easily done that earlier." So they go to this planet, they open it up, and they find there's people on the torpedoes. So Kirk goes, John Harrison, "Why are there people in these torpedoes?" And these are the crew members from the SS Botany Bay, which was first introduced in the original show, which was a ship that they put these frozen people on to sort of get rid of them and just send them off into space because I guess they weren't willing to kill them on Earth at the time. And it's the entire genetically engineered sort of Khan's army. He mentions that at that point, he's like, "I'm Khan Noonien Singh," and says it in such a way. It's just like, okay, like, yes, for the audience, it's cool, but like it wouldn't make.
But at the same time, it doesn't feel the same because it's not.
No, Ricardo Montalban. Yes. It doesn't feel the same at all. Whatever. Saying that name, though, does have, like, a lot of meaning behind it, because you know what a big deal Khan was. It was arguably the biggest threat the original Enterprise ever faced. Killing the original Spock, destroyed Genesis, killing all kind of different Starfleet officers, it goes on and on and on, all the repercussions to their encounter with Khan. At this point, Kirk asks Chekhov, "Can we go to warp?" And Chekhov's like, "Well, we can go to warp, but it's not very safe." He's like, "Well, can you do it?" He's like, "Yes." "All right, go to warp." Then try to get back to Earth to bring the prisoner there and sort of, I don't know, uncover this whole thing going on. And earlier in the film, when they met with Marcus, he told them the archives are not simply the archives. That was Section 31, and if you're a Star Trek fan, you know Section 31 is sort of like the Black Ops version of Starfleet. They do the stuff that the Federation stands against. Killing, weapons, everything behind the scenes to protect the lives of the Federation. And he mentions Section 31, that archive was where they were testing special weapons, that sort of stuff, and that's why he chose to blow that place up. So they're warping, they're heading back to Earth, and then... You know what? They weren't warping yet. They were still stranded. And the other ship arrives there, and he's like, hails him, Admiral Marcus, "Hey, Kirk," and he's like, "You must be here to help us with our warp drive." Yeah. That's the only, that must be why you're here. Yeah. He's like, "Well, we talked to John Harrison, we're bringing him back." He's like, "Shit. You're not supposed to talk to him." He's like, "I was trying to spare you from this." He's like, "Against my better judgment, I let you go here, and I told you to fire the torpedoes at him and wipe him out. That was what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to talk to him." Because once you talked to him, he found out he was woken up by Admiral Marcus. Admiral Marcus took him to use his enhanced brain and his savagery and all that sort of stuff to make weapons and basically prepare them for war with the Klingons. He's like, war is inevitable. The Klingons, have every single encounter we have with them, they've destroyed us or attacked us, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, basically telling Kirk, well, I'm going to have to destroy your ship now.
Yeah.
And then they go to warp. That's when he's like, check off his warp working. He's like, well, it's not safe to go. And so they're heading to warp. And he's like, oh, they can never catch this warp. And he's like, yes, they can. That ship is 3 times faster than you. And of course, the ship comes out, blasts them out of warp. And they say they're like, I don't know, like 20,000 or 20 million kilometers from Earth.
Yes.
But basically, they're right next to
Earth.
At the moon. They're real close to the Earth system. And I thought it was a bad decision on the movie's part. I think they should have been a little further away because the Earth has to have tons of sensors. And there should be other Starfleet ships within range, like all these space docks and dry dock and whatever up there. So
and the colony on the moon.
Yeah, all kind of stuff like that. I personally think they should have just left it a couple light years away at least. It could be kind of close, but
like Jupiter or Saturn or something like that.
Just somewhere where they should be able to get help. Then again, Admiral Marcus might have been like, I mean, he's an admiral in charge of like Starfleet security. Could have been told him not to, but I think it shouldn't have been right there. That bothered me.
Yes.
And he's about to destroy them. Then you find out Admiral Marcus's daughter came on board the ship. Carol Wallace was what she said her name was. And Spock found out it's Carol Marcus. And Carol Marcus is from Star Trek II. She's the one that made the Genesis Project. And she was the mother of Kirk's son, David, who is probably not even conceived at this point. One assumes at one point that she got pregnant and left the ship between the two films, but who knows? But it's kind of cool having that little Easter egg, Carol Marcus. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And I didn't even make the connection, I don't think, when first watching the movie about Admiral Marcus,
Oh, yeah, that.
And noticing. Because I remember when she came and she said her name was Carol Wallace. You're like, why is her name Wallace? It should be Marcus. And I was like, you're like, why would they do that? I'm like, just wait.
I forgot.
But it's funny because you have Admiral Marcus there, and, I don't think I made the connection the first time I watched this movie. You sure didn't make the connection last night watching the movie. And he's about to destroy them, and they mention, oh, we have your daughter here, and he stops firing, and he just beams her off. And then he's about to destroy him again, and I don't honestly remember why, but the ship gets, like, disabled. Scotty was on board, because Scotty went to those coordinates and saw this giant warship, effectively, and he's stuck on board, which is also ridiculous. Like, I mean, they would know if there's an extra person on board. They have sensors and stuff, but whatever, it's plot convenience again.
Yeah.
We disabled the weapons on the ship. And then Kirk goes to Khan and lets him out of jail, knowing at this point that he's genetically engineered, he's Khan, he's a Superman, a superhero, whatever. They took a blood sample, verified all this stuff, and they get in their little spacesuits and they jump out the airlock and go all the way over to the USS Vengeance, which is a Dreadnought-class ship. Giant, big warship led by Section 31, which I guess Admiral Marcus is in charge of Section 31. In Star Trek Nemesis, they did something very similar. Data left the Enterprise, jumped out of the airlock, and went all the way to the Scimitar. And it's like, sometimes they take parts from, like, some of the dumbest parts from some of the dumbest movies and reenact them, but, whatever. They have this scene where they're going through all debris, and it's cool, but, whatever. Finally get to the ship, they're going through, they're fighting different Starfleet people, they have Scotty with them, and they get to the bridge of the ship, and Kirk mentions, Scotty, so we get to the bridge, take him out. He's like, well, aren't we helping him? He's like, no, I'm pretty sure he's tricking us into helping him. Yeah. They get on the bridge, they phaser everybody, and bam, he phasers John Harrison. Yep. But he's a superhuman. He's probably not even really knocked out. And we have Admiral Marcus, you have Carol Marcus, Kirk, Scotty, and John Harrison, Khan on the bridge, and those are the bridge everybody left. Yes. Of course, Khan gets up. He breaks Marcus's leg. I don't know what he does, how Scotty gets taken out. And I don't really know how Kirk gets taken out either, but he squeezes Admiral Marcus and just crushes his head, kills him like that. And the thing is, Admiral Marcus is a motherfucker in this. Like, he took his 72 people that were his family. He used them to manipulate him and coerce him into helping him. Then he put him on these torpedoes. John Harrison thought that he killed his entire family, and that's why he attacked all the Starfleet admirals in basically just an act of revenge. It doesn't make it right at all, but you kind of understand, okay, maybe he's not this bad person. I don't even really understand the whole point of the Khan thing. I mean, he frees him and he manipulates him, and I guess then Khan wants to get revenge against the Federation for what Marcus did.
Well, and I'm sure against humanity too, because
they threw him off, and he would like to sort of run the world again, and kind of where
yes,
he left off.
Yes, the world would be better.
Oh, and he mentions, they say, like, well, who would you justify as worthy, of in your new race? Mm-hmm. It's the same old thing from 200 years ago, and then they're trying to do it again because the genetic engineered people are superior, and they're the master race or whatever. Mm-hmm. So on that ship, they're trying to destroy the Enterprise, but they're disabled, and then what do they beam back on the Enterprise? I think the three of them. They leave Khan on there.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I honestly don't remember what happens that messes up the Vengeance. Like, do they like charges or something?
No. Remember, Bones tried to. Well, he took a look at the torpedoes again.
Yeah. So he beamed the 72 torpedoes off of their ship onto the Vengeance, and Spock activated the torpedoes. So as soon as he beamed them on, all 72 blew up inside the Vengeance, which. Surprised the ship didn't get destroyed, but it's a very, very strong, powerful, big, armored ship. Yeah. And at that point, the Enterprise is also really messed up. Like, their power's out. The engine is, like, messed up. Remember?
Yeah.
And they have to, like, reboot the engine or whatever. And it's caught in Earth's gravity, and the whole ship is sort of circling down. Whatever, They finally get, reboot the engines, get it working, of course, in the nick of time.
Yes.
Oh, because Kirk, in reenacting the Star Trek II where Spock dies, Kirk goes into the engine room with the radiation and switches all the stuff and pretty much sacrifices his life to save the Enterprise. In a very Kirk-type thing. Yeah. Spock did this in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, and it was a very touchy moment. Now, the movie, I think, is pretty good, but this part... The movie would have been better off if they didn't even have this at all. They tried so hard to homage Star Trek II, and it failed. It just came off short so much. Mm-hmm. Kirk goes into the room, sacrifices himself. Then, you have Scotty's like, Spock, you better come down here. Hurry. And it's just like Star Trek II. Like, they kind of reenacted. He goes down there, and, Kirk's like, oh, I'm dying. And, they're all like, oh, live long and prosper through the glass. And Kirk dies. And Spock's like, Khan! And they're trying to... It just all falls short. Like, it could have been better. It's forced.
Yes.
It's not nearly as good as what happened in the mid-'80s or early 80s. And it's just... Like, there's so many other ways you could have got either Kirk or Spock to be like, Khan! And it just doesn't work. And it comes off as so dumb. Yeah. And forced, and it doesn't have like the emotion. Like I didn't have any. My eyes did not water at all. Whereas they most certainly would water at the end of Star Trek II. That's a sad moment. So John Harrison crashes the entire Vengeance. He tries to crash into Starfleet headquarters, but it's not quite that simple because the ship's not really working. Yeah, he crashes it. He kills, I'm sure, a ton of people. And it's a giant-ass ship. And he, of course, lives through the crash. They mention, like, nobody would live through this. And he's like, he would. Yeah. Spock beams down. Of course, that's the only beam they can do. And the transport breaks after that. And a Vulcan is, like, 3 times the strength of a human. But Khan is probably, like, 5 or 10 times the strength of a human. And he's fighting Spock in this ridiculous battle where they're on top of, like, shuttles on Earth. And it's just... I mean, it's kind of cool. Kind of dumb. And meanwhile, on the ship... Earlier, they had this scene that was sort of like foreshadowing where he was like, oh, what's that? Oh, it's a dead Tribble. I'm inserting it with John Harrison's blood or Khan's blood to see how it would react. And of course, later, the Tribble comes back to life because they put Khan's blood into it. Just like Khan's blood saved the daughter, that sick daughter at the beginning of the film. Yeah. And they tell Spock, hey, don't kill him. We need his blood. Yes. And Spock doesn't kill him. Yeah. They get his blood. Mm-hmm. How did he beat him?
He knocked him out.
He kept Vulcan pinching him, and it was like sort of taking him down, but it wasn't enough because he was so strong. But I thought it was kind of cool. I liked that. That was kind of cool, I thought. Yeah. How does he take him out?
Didn't Uhura... She was down there. Didn't she shoot him?
She did come down. Yeah, she shot him like it took him like 10 stuns to take him out. So on the bridge when they stunned him, he was faking being unconscious. So they bring Khan back to the ship. They take his blood, inject Kirk. Kirk comes back to life, and it just ruins like that scene. Might have been something, but it happened like 10 minutes. Yeah,
quickly.
Within 10 or 12 minutes or something, you have Kirk dies. Kirk comes back to life.
Took him 2 weeks to come back to life, and it's like.
Well, I don't remember 2 weeks.
That's what Bones'
when he got up, it's been a couple weeks, and they're back at Starfleet headquarters. Yeah, and then everything's over. Then you see they have Harrison. They refroze him, put him maybe not in the torpedo, because he took all the 72 people out of the torpedoes and kept them in sickbay, but they froze Khan again. And so essentially this universe, those 72 or 73, I guess, people are frozen somewhere in Starfleet headquarters. And honestly, I would think that's not a very Starfleet thing to do, to keep these guys frozen. But they don't believe in genetic engineering, and they know they're a threat they are. Yeah. But in theory, you could bring Khan back in the Kelvin timeline. Like, it's not going to happen, but if they really wanted to, that option is there for them. Yeah. Whereas in the original version, they gave Khan his own planet to conquer. They marooned them. Well, they didn't exactly maroon him. They put him there. Yeah. And it was SETI Alpha 3 or SETI Alpha 4, or they got mixed up with SETI Alpha 2 or whatever. Yeah. And at the end of Star Trek 2, he dies. He's on the Reliant, and Genesis blows up, killing Khan. Yeah. And all of his followers are dead, too. And he quotes whatever it is, Shakespeare or whatever. That's Star Trek 6. Well, he quotes. He's like, I did the Mentarius Nebula, and I'll go through the, whatever. And they sort of just wrap everything up in a nice little bow. And I hate Kirk dies. You know what? That could be cool, but of course Kirk's not going to die. He's like literally the main freaking character in Star Trek: The Original Series. When Spock died in Star Trek 2, it wasn't like for sure he was coming back. I mean, I think they already had some ideas when they were making it, but it was supposed to be the death of Spock, who was like arguably one of the most popular characters in the entire Star Trek universe. The second in command to Kirk, and it was a huge emotional thing. This one did not have the emotion behind it. No. I don't think anybody believed that Kirk was actually dead. Yeah, no. Yeah, he was dead. But they brought him back just so fast. Yes. And of course you have Spock, who's like, then his emotions get let loose, and he's raging and, punching John Harrison, all this stuff. It's not satisfying. Yeah. It's just kind of dumb. Yeah. The worst part of this movie is where they kill Kirk, they do the Khan thing, and they bring him back all within like a 15-minute period of time. Yes. And it loses any gravity or emotion to it. Yeah. And that, like, the rest of the movie, it's good, it's dark, it's serious. They do a decent job of sort of reinterpreting Khan, and I'm okay with it. He doesn't look anything like the other guy, but it's cool. I really don't even mind that sort of stuff. But they just made it dumb and bad. Yeah. And that sucks. Well, and it's so quick and forced, and there's, it's like, it'd be one thing if they left Kirk dead for like a long time, and then like at the end, but no, it was so predictable. Yes. And that's my biggest problem with that. It's just too much. Yeah. And that pretty much wraps up the film. I know I'm talking a lot of shit about how I didn't like the reversal of Star Trek 2, where Kirk dies, Spock gets revenge, blah, blah, blah. But the movie as a whole, it's good. I like it. I like the reinterpretation of Khan. The movie's shot very well. The story, it's okay, but it has, like, the more you dig into it, the more you're like, oh, that doesn't make sense. Yeah. No, that doesn't make sense either. Well, that makes even less sense. And that contradicts that. But if you kind of turn your brain off and watch it, it's... No, I mean, like, but you don't have to, like, fully turn your brain off. But even the first, the 2009 Reboot movie had a lot of stuff that if you, like, dig really deep, it's like, that doesn't really make sense either. But it's a fun ride. I really did like the Vengeance, cool ship, and it makes sense that Section 31 would have this, warship type stuff. There's one scene we didn't mention that when Khan and Kirk went to the Vengeance, at one point... Spock asked them to open a channel with New Vulcan. And if you know, Vulcan got destroyed in the first one, and he actually talks to Leonard Nimoy. Rest in peace, Leonard Nimoy. But Leonard Nimoy did not live that much longer than this film. Like maybe a year later, he was very sick, I think, at this time. And it was cool to see him. He mentions, hey, did you ever encounter Khan Noonien Singh? And he was like, I promised I would not divulge anything from the future that might influence your decisions. But in this case, I will tell you, Khan Noonien Singh is the most dangerous adversary we ever faced. And he's like, well, did you beat him? He's like, yes, at great cost. And Leonard Nimoy gave his life in the process of defeating Khan, saving the entire Enterprise. So that was pretty cool. See, I love being able to include Leonard Nimoy for this last little send-off. Very, very nice. Yes. At the end of the film, they keep talking about starting the 5-year mission, and no ship has ever been on a mission that long or that deep in space, and they sort of start the 5-year mission at the end. And you have this kind of cool scene at the end where the Enterprise is leaving, going to work, and they're like, space, the final frontier. And each one of the 6 or 7 main cast members get a chance to say, like, a part of it. A little line of it. And it's a pretty cool little send-off. And bam, they go to warp, implying they're starting the 5-year mission.
Yes.
To boldly go where no one has gone before. The epitome of what Star Trek is about and what the original show was about. Just going to different planets, meeting different species, new relationships, first contact, all that sort of stuff. So, the movie, I think it's maybe a step below the 2009 reboot, but it's not like much worse.
Yeah, not much worse.
I just don't like the whole Kirk and Spock dying, coming back to life thing. I think it's dumb and forced and too fast.
And then McCoy, he just constantly doing those stupid one-liner things.
Like, I'm not a torpedo technician, I'm a doctor, and it's just like, eh.
It's a constant.
I get it, and it's like, I appreciate it, because he did say that crap a lot in the old show, and they reference that in all the shows over the years. Like, you see Bashir saying that stuff, and I mean, I like it. It didn't really bother me,
but
honestly.
It was like every sentence
it's a lot. It's
that.
a little bit much. Yes. And honestly, he looked really big and buff in this movie. Like, it didn't quite look like I remember McCoy looking.
Yeah.
Whatever. Not a big deal. And at the end, they have Carol Marcus, like, stands with them as, like, she's a new member of their crew. And they go into the 5-year mission with her, and then she's randomly gone to the next one. They clearly were planning to bring her on board as a new cast member. In my own headcanon, I imagine that she got impregnated between the two films and somehow left the ship. And presumably birthed David off-screen. You know, just like in the original continuity.
Yeah.
But they clearly were planning to bring Carol Marcus back, and it just did not happen. I don't know if there were issues with the actress or, you know, the budget, whatever it was.
Yeah.
It's cool that they're setting up, you know, like, the future, the unknown. It doesn't really pay off. Now, like I said, I think this movie is a step below the previous one. And I like the previous one. I like this one as well. I don't hate this one by any means. But the next one is even a step below. They all sort of progressively get worse, and I wonder if they ever do a fourth Kelvin movie, which they keep bringing up every couple of years. Oh, we're still doing it. Oh, we're still writing. Oh, we're still trying to get it. The problem is, I think Chris Pine wants too much money. He's the only actor they couldn't get to sort of go on board because they were trying to pay them less and less each movie. And, of course, a popular actor like Chris Pine, their agent's not going to let them do something for less money.
He kept going on to, like, Wonder Woman. And
they were trying to get Chris Hemsworth to come back, which played Kirk's father in the first one. He's a huge star now with Thor and all these other different roles he's had. Of course, these movies making less and less money each one. They don't have the budget to pay these superstars. And that was a huge reason it never happened, I don't know, like 5 years ago. They were close to doing, they were going to do some sort of time travel movie with the two of them and blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, let's just do a different story and forget Chris Hemsworth. He's going to cost too much. Chris Pine, you can't do without him, honestly. You have to have the main crew back. And, of course, Anton Yelchin has now died as Chekhov. I mean, they could write that off and just say transferred or, you know, I mean, do something to sort of respect him. They probably should not recast him. That would probably upset some people. Like, oh, Walter Koenig is still alive, played the original Chekhov. I'll just bring him in and don't even say anything. Yeah, just leave it alone.
Oh, my God.
It could be funny. But as a whole, the movie. So, it looks good visually. The ship battles are good. The acting is fine. I don't have any problem. I'm not like, the acting wasn't hokey except for the con.
Yeah.
And the whole Spock and Uhura, like, relationship issues. They could have skipped all that crap and the movie would have been better off. If the movie didn't have the part where Kirk died and all that crap, if they just left that out and did something a little bit different there, the movie would have been much better off. I might be inclined to give like a 7 out of 10, but probably as is, I probably want to give like something like I feel like 6 is too low because I do enjoy the movie, but I guess like a 6.5. But if they took that dumb shit out near the end, it could have easily been like a 7 or 7.5. Easily. The movie, it's good. I think Khan, that guy did an excellent job acting as Khan. Doesn't act like the original Khan, but he's very serious, stern. I liked him in that role. Even though it's not what I would picture, I actually liked it. Carol Marcus, fine. Admiral Marcus, I thought was great.
Yeah.
Pike. So we had 2 Batmans get killed in this. You had Pike get killed and Marcus get killed. Both Batman actors died in the same film. Nice little Easter egg there. But it's cool, and I love the inclusion of Section 31. I thought that's fantastic. A nice little reference to Star Trek lore, because that's been a reference in Deep Space Nine, Enterprise, Discovery, and the Kelvin movie. So they've, you know, Section 31 is a big part of modern Trek. It's like the epitome of, like, the anti-Starfleet. Like, they should not be doing that sort of stuff, and it's something you've never been exposed to before. But it makes sense that there would be this unofficial Black Ops thing protecting the lives of the Federation and the, you know, convenience and their carefree, worry-free, you know, lives. What do you think? How do you rate it? I guess 6.5 rating, but I think maybe it deserves a little higher than that. But I just that part at the end sucks.
It's still fun.
It is fun. I enjoyed it. It's not just fun, but it's also dark and it's serious and it's the Klingons, the war, Section 31, Khan, John Harrison.
Yeah.
I like all that stuff. Stuff I don't like, the Kirk dying, Spock thing, Scotty resigning and leaving. There's plenty of stuff I don't like.
Why would Chekhov? He was like also shadowing engineer.
He I was sure it's like college where you have like a major and then you have a minor.
Yeah, but then all of a sudden from being on the bridge and then all of a sudden he's chief engineer. When wouldn't he have like a backup?
Yeah, you'd think there'd be like a department backup for the chief engineer, although maybe that was his Yoda guy. But you're right, it makes no sense because they just wanted to have one of the main cast members to take over that role.
Yes.
It's just another plot convenience. Yes. The whole beginning part with the Prime Directive thing, I swear, the more you think about it, the more it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. No.
Because you don't hear Pike chastising them about getting rid of the volcano and, making it dormant. Like, he just complains that they got seen. So it's like, I don't even know how to interpret that scene. The more I think about it, just ask more questions and more questions. It doesn't make sense. But I like the movie. I don't love it. And I feel like it messes up more times than the previous movie. But I do like it for what it is. Yeah. So, me, 6.5, I guess. You?
I guess the same. Yeah.
Yeah, and I started Beyond. Also, was not horrible, but the solution of that movie is just so dumb. It, once again, just like the end of this movie kind of really hurts this one. That one, the end of that movie really fucking ruins that movie, and it sucks. So this is a reenactment to a point of Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, but it's very different. It's not like remaking the same story, but it sort of is. Still, there we go. The 12th Star Trek movie. My God, you're thinking, probably, if you haven't watched these movies, you're watching these videos, you're probably thinking, how many Star Trek movies are there? Oh my God. Well, there's one more. And they haven't made one in a while. So, it'd be nice if they do more movies. I've heard rumors of a Section 31 movie, rumors of a Picard movie. There's always rumors of a fourth Kelvin movie. I don't think the fourth Kelvin movie is ever going to happen, and I'll be okay if it never happens, because that's a completely different universe.
Yeah.
Very confusing to people who don't know all the intricate ins and outs of why the things don't line up. Whatever.
Yeah.
So, be on the lookout for the Star Trek Beyond video coming in the near future. So, this is dHunter and my lovely wife Patricia. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked the video, press like below. If you have anything you want to say about the video, add to the comment section. If you want to see additional movie and action figure videos from me, press subscribe. dHunter, my lovely wife Patricia, and as always, live long and prosper.